This is Matt for Into Boxing. Delighted to be joined once again by Matt Macklin. Matt, we're here in Newcastle. Hell of a card, Savannah Marshall against Hermans. It's hard not to overlook this, isn't it, when you know what lies ahead? Talk to me about that fight.
Yeah, look, Herman's a good fighter, former world champion, European champion, current European champion now. So it's, look, Savannah's obviously a strong favourite, assuming she performs the way she has been recently. But if she takes her eye off the ball, which is very hard not to when people are already talking about the next fight, because you're human. No matter how much you try and stop it happening, it's the hardest thing to guard against complacency, because it's the human element, isn't it? But as long as that doesn't affect her too much, then I think she's a strong favourite here and should win and move on to that fight. But if she really underperforms, anything is boxing.
Stranger things have happened, but obviously I think everyone expects her to get past. So, providing and without looking over the opponent in Hermans, how big is a fight with Claressa Shields? We're looking at Katie Taylor's in the Garden against Amanda Serrano, a great fight. Women's boxing's booming, but this is it's a fight with a hell of a backstory too. When you look all the way back at the Olympics, the only person to ever beat Claressa Shields, going back to the amateurs, is Savannah. How big is that fight?
Well, this in the female boxing, this is a super fight. That would be a super fight, just like Taylor and Serrano is a super fight. So, and there's not that many of them, because the depth of women's boxing, it's growing and growing, but they don't have as many of the sort of crossover stars or people with that level of profile, girls with that level of profile. So, but with the history that they've got as well, the fact that Savannah beat her, and because of Claressa's profile and what she's gone on and she's achieved and done since then, it's a huge fight. And Savannah's sort of profile has built massively the last sort of 12 months, and her performances have gone with that. And even the way she holds herself doing interviews now, she's growing into that. She's feeling comfortable in that role, isn't she? Look, on Claressa's last performance, I would pick Savannah to beat her. The form Savannah's been in. That said, I'm sure Claressa will be a different Claressa that fights Savannah, because she'll be up for it. But yeah, look, great fight.
I think what refreshing for me was to see the ringside area when Claressa had last fought. Now we've seen over the years that men's game, they have a bit of back and forth, sets up the fight, or they call someone into the ring. For me, that was like a huge turning point in women's boxing, where we had that moment where Claressa's personality came out, Savannah had a few comments, and it was just good to see, because obviously we're trying to get it where women's boxing is now just so it's just boxing, and these little moments, these snippets will stand in time, won't they?
Yeah, of course. Look, like we were saying, Savannah, her sort of 12 months, her performances have just gone to another level. And I think that's confidence that's done that.
Yeah.
Before she looked a bit unsure, confidence. I don't know, because she was winning and she was a great amateur, but she didn't seem to believe in herself enough. But I think that's something's happened there, and it's changed. And because of that, her performances have just gone to another level. But I also think her how she's outside of the ring has gone to another level. Her confidence in interviews, like you say, she wasn't confrontational in her face, but she was funny, wasn't she?
Yeah, she's quite dry, and I like that, because it's different.
Oh no, she tickled me when she said to me, "You turn up like that." Oh me, I'll wipe the floor with you. I thought it was hilarious, and Claressa Shields went mad, and I thought it was brilliant, really did.
Yeah, I'm going to say, fingers crossed, but not overlooking this. I want to get your reaction to last week. We had Josh Warrington become a two-time world champion as Kiko Martinez. Brilliant fight. He can still go again for me. I love watching that guy fight. What were your initial thoughts to the fight?
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it, boxing? You've got Kid Galahad and Warrington have such a ding-dong, and then Warrington gets turned over by a guy that he was meant to
come out of nowhere, isn't it?
And then Martinez knocks out Kid Galahad, and then all of a sudden, it's just mad boxing. But Warrington, Kiko, and going into that fight, you don't know where. I know he had the technical decision win over Lara, so he kind of put it to bed a little bit. But
didn't it when it classes a no contest?
Oh, was it no contest? Sorry, yeah. Sorry. Well,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
But he went back in there, so to some degree, he'd exercised the demon, but you're not sure how much so. And then obviously because of it didn't really get a conclusive end to it. And then all of a sudden, he's boxing Kiko, who's knocked out Galahad, you know, all of a sudden you think psychologically where's he going to be at? But credit to Warrington, he's a pit bull. He is a pit bull.
Yeah, for me it looked like the old Josh Warrington, but with his spite and full of confidence. Didn't look like someone who'd just been like knocked out brutally by Lara, that fight behind closed doors. I think you can tell the difference when they've got a crowd in as well for him. But if you're him now, when you look at the options he's got, you've got Leewood and the City Ground or Ellen Road, but I think he wants to have an away day. I think he's looking at going to the States. What would you do if you're in his position now? Would you look at saying, not fought abroad yet, take the Leeds fans over to America? Or would you say, it's a big fight at the City Ground, unify? Hard one, isn't it? Is it who pays the most money?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because you can make a strong case for both, and I suppose it depends on his individual preferences. Like, he's done a lot of sort of stadium fights with big crowds, so maybe a trip to Vegas and bringing everyone over there. He'd have watched Ricky Hatton over the years. Yeah. Maybe that's more appealing to him than the Leewood one. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I guess I would imagine I would think that if I was Warrington and I've done, you know, I've boxed in Ellen Road, and I'm thinking, well, why do I want to box in the City Ground in Nottingham? I want to go to Vegas. Yeah. I would imagine.
Navarrete, I think.
Sorry?
Is it Navarrete?
Yeah, but that Navarrete is a tough fight. You know, he might see Leewood as a more winnable fight. You know, he may see that as a more winnable fight. So, you know, I suppose you've got to weigh up the opponent, weigh up the money, and just, I suppose, yeah, you just got to weigh up all there's a few factors to take into account.
It's recently come out, Anthony Joshua, it's from all the sources online, it's saying that Saudi Arabia is in play to host this rematch, now that it looks like this is definitely happening next. What's your thoughts on that fight heading to Saudi? Obviously, we saw the success that they had in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. That's a fight, hopefully, for the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, I think everyone kind of behind the scenes are hoping or trying to work it or make it viable to get it at Tottenham again. But look, it's professional boxing, and you know, we've seen it time and time again. Your career can end in one fight. Yeah. 100%. So you're going to, you know, what you're going to say to a guy who's going to go somewhere, they can get a lot more money to go elsewhere.
Yeah. Oh, I don't begrudge it. If it's an extra 10-20 million, you've got to really look at it and say,
if it's a
fair
negligible amount, then I think it's a no-brainer that they would do it here. 100%. But if it's an astronomical amount more, what can you say?
What do you think about Anthony Joshua's sort of state of mind going into that fight? We've seen for weeks and weeks we were going, oh, who's his new trainer going to be? He's said Angel Fernandez will be in his corner. I know with everything that's going on, sadly, in the Ukraine, which is much bigger than anything we're going to do, by the way, there were talks of an interim bout. Do you think an interim bout would have been more beneficial for him to maybe fight a southpaw, like they mentioned an Otto Wallin, although that opponent choice got slated for Fury? Would you see that or an Ortiz as more of a better shout before going back in with Usyk?
I would, yeah, because it's a fight. I know Fernandez is an alien to him. He's worked with him, but you know, he's not up in Sheffield. I think it's Loughborough now, and you know, and also just to look, it was a bad night for him. The Usyk fight was. It's not a good style for him. You know, now whether or not he finds a way to win in the rematch tactically, mindset different, and he does get in there. Maybe Usyk's not quite the fight with all the stuff that's going on with Ukraine, and he wins. Then you know, hats off to him if he does. But in a perfect world, you would have an interim fight. Yeah. You would have that one fight with Angel Fernandez in Loughborough. Get a southpaw in, loads of southpaw sparring, because you know, look, they'll have looked at that performance and thought, should have done a bit more of this, or you've done too much of that. Whatever it was, and then it's like a dummy run, isn't it? You know what I mean? I mean, it's not. You still got to go in and beat the fighter, you know, always, and there are always risks. But you know what I mean? It just gives you that. I think if he did do that, he'd have more confidence going into the rematch with Usyk.
Can you see Joshua winning this rematch? In your heart of hearts, have seen how the first fight went. We know that he completely got the game plan wrong, and I think he openly admits that himself. But can he go in there and beat Usyk?
Oh, he can do, but probably don't think he will. You know, I mean, look. Of course he could. You know, he could win it, but I do think Usyk's a bad style for him. I mean, we've seen it the first fight. Now, even if he'll make adjustments, but so will Usyk. Yeah. Like, don't forget, Usyk was in. You know, he was in there with him. I think Usyk could be better in the rematch. You know, what's going on in the Ukraine aside, you know, in terms of how that could, we don't know what impact that could have mentally, psychologically, training, all the rest of it. But that aside, I think Usyk, it'll be a better Usyk because now he probably believed and thought he could hurt Joshua the first time. Now he knows he can. That if that fight went on another 30 seconds, it'd have stopped him.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to start. I think he'll start quick again. I do, and get first. It's all right. You're spar southpaws and that, but you're in there, and this is the last guy you box, beat you, comes out and he's quicker. So when you box someone fast, speed is always at its most the biggest advantage early on, first round. When you're maybe you don't have the same speed, but you got good timing, and you can eventually after a couple of rounds you get the timing of them, you start reading them. Maybe they slow down a little bit, the sting just goes out of them, and then actual physical strength is an advantage in the second half of a fight. Yeah. But early doors, speed is your best friend, and Joshua going in their first fight, Usyk starts quickly. It could be tough.
The other big heavyweight fight, obviously, Fury White. I'm sure you saw it on TalkSport the other week where Dillian White's lawyer went on there and had a bit of a back and forth with Frank Warren over contracts and tickets and stuff. I was speaking to Adam Smith about this. I want to get your take on it. Do you think this is all trying to basically put it on the A side, as in Tyson Fury's clearly the A side going into this fight, but trying to almost take back a bit of that power and say, look, this is this and this, and maybe putting a bit of pressure and creating a bit of doubt over whether, will this fight go ahead? Because I know everyone's saying not 100% convinced it'll actually happen, but it seems ludicrous that when there's that much money on the table.
I think it will definitely happen. I think it's brinksmanship, one-upmanship. It's a bit of, I don't know, it's a bit like, just trying to... It's funny, isn't it? Because Dillian hasn't really played ball in the promotion.
Not one pass, sorry.
I say really, he hasn't played ball at all. So they're probably then thinking, well, if you're not going to play ball, we're not going to do anything we don't need to. Things that normally is a given that another promoter will give you and do for you type thing. They're probably thinking, well, why should we? I guess their mentality is you've thrown your dummy out the pram. You didn't get the money you wanted. We went to purse bids and we won it, and the WBC ruled what they ruled, and that's just the way it is. And because they feel like he's probably acting like a spoilt boy, so they're thinking, okay, well, we'll be the same. Why should we go out of our way to accommodate you with anything that we're not contractually obligated to? Yeah. It's a bit like that, isn't it? A bit like a stalemate type thing. But it's a shame, really, because they should give the tickets and things, I guess, and he should do the promotional stuff.
Yeah. It's a great fight. Let's not forget, outside of when we were talking about Joshua Fury and this for years, this is a brilliant fight, and Dillian's waited obviously for his chance and put himself in the position. What do you make of the actual fight? How big a chance do you give Dillian White in that fight?
I think you can't really pick anyone to beat Tyson Fury at the minute, but that's the current landscape as things are today. Yeah. But boxing, every time there's a big fight, it changes that landscape, that pecking order. It's adjusted, isn't it? So, look, Fury, the form he's been in, how he's proven and everything, style. Yeah, I think you've got to say he's a solid favourite, but it's not a foregone conclusion. No. Dillian's been in some big fights. Dillian's won big fights. He's been tough. He got knocked out, came back and put on a great performance. So there's a bit of inner fortitude there with Dillian.
It's quite recent. I saw Tyson Fury's sparring with Big Baby Miller. He's come back off his long ban. What do you make of that? Obviously, it's received, as you can imagine, a lot of negative comments online. Jarrell Miller's back in boxing. What do you make of it?
Yeah, look, I think he should be banned for life. Simple as. But what else do you say?
What do we do about this now in boxing? Obviously, we have these tests that seem to go awry. I mean, we saw it with Oscar Valdez, and he was allowed to carry on and fight and stuff like that. How do we draw a line on it as a boxing as a whole? Do we need that one governing body, or do we all send something out between these commissions that say, look, under no circumstances do we ever allow a fight to go ahead with a failed test? How do we do it from an ex-fighter's point of view?
Yeah, it's got to be something that's
unanimously.
Everyone's got to be on the same page with it, and everyone's got to, like if one commission that doesn't normally have a big fight or a sanctioning one of the belts, whatever, maybe aren't getting as much big fights suddenly think, well, we'll do that big fight in our state and for our title because they want the sanctioning fee or the license fee. Then it's like it's divide and conquer, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and fighters, you know, that have got that generate money have more clout, don't they? Like, you know, Canelo got banned for 6 months, but he wouldn't have boxed for 6 months anyway.
Yeah.
Like, that was just the most pathetic, shambolic, like token gesture ban ever. You know, it's like, what was the point? And it's like, but like, it's just, you know, when you think of the money that's being generated in boxing, like, what is to deter these guys from doing it again? You know, you'd like to think, well, as a fighter, you wouldn't want to do it, but I guess there's that much money on the line, and also they're seeing other people doing it, getting away with it, earning money, and people still going out and supporting them. No one's like ridiculing them or kind of ostracising them, are they? So they're probably thinking. And also, then I think what's worrying, and I think I was going to say you don't want to get there, but we probably already are. It's like the cycling. I'd say there's loads of cyclists that really don't want to have an unfair advantage, but they don't want to be at an unfair disadvantage.
Yes.
You know, they want a level playing field, and they're thinking like, no one's saying it, but I know everyone's on it, so I'm going to take it. That's the way the cycling obviously went, didn't it? You know, and that, you know, that's what's gonna happen or what's already happened in boxing.
It's sad, isn't it? Because obviously you just hope that when you see these fights happening that everyone's just on an even playing field, because like we've seen so many times over the years, thank God it's not very frequent, but you know, one shot changes everything.
Well, look, as bad as it is someone losing the 100 metres in the Olympics or the Tour de France, as bad as that is, because we want fair play, and you imagine how being cheated out of something or knowing you got turned over, but boxing, people get killed, people die in boxing, and so it is worse for that reason.
100%. We'll end on this. I believe Amir Khan has apparently invoked his rematch clause. What's your thoughts on that? It seemed like quite a decisive ending in the last fight. After the press conference, I was under the impression they both may sail off into the sunset, but definitely Amir would. What's your thoughts on that?
But yeah, I thought after the fight that they both would retire and go out on, you know, from Cal's point of view on a high, and from Khan's point of view, had a great career, nothing left to prove, not really in love with boxing anymore. That's what he was saying, and it was like, yeah, totally get that, and that's it. That chapter's over for both people, and something else is next. Brook, you thought maybe he will fight again because he could earn a lot of money. There could be a big fight there for him, but I definitely didn't think we'd see Amir Khan boxing again. I was shocked.
What's that about? Because when we speak to Eddie Hearn, Eddie says he's already had people contact him about what would they pay to step aside, what would they pay to have the rematch. Is this purely a thing where Amir can maybe hold Kell up a little bit by invoking it and just keep it going? Is it what is this, or do you believe that he wants to come back and wants to get in the ring again?
I mean, I don't know I don't know the ins and outs of the contract. You know, rematch clause, how long? Because it's not world title. It doesn't have a title that he's holding up. You know, is it like he can never box again unless he does how long? There's got to be an expiration date on it, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's for me. It's just I don't really want to see it again. It was a very one-sided, conclusive ending.
Yeah.
I like both guys. They both had great careers. I don't think it sells again. I don't. Not like
it did.
It's not, you know, would it sell again? It would sell to some degree, but not like it did, because it was so much. You know, there was so much bad blood there, and it was like it needed to be sorted, I guess. You know, but it was.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I just we'll see, I guess. But I don't. It's not something. I hope it doesn't happen.
We'll see we'll see what unfolds anyway. I believe there's going to be talks with him and Chris Eubank Jr. That's Kell Brook. Would you want
Josh Taylor?
Josh Taylor?
Josh Taylor. That's the fight for me, because if you look at
Josh Taylor and Kell.
Josh Taylor and Kell.
What weight?
Welterweight. Josh Taylor's on about moving up, wasn't he? After Jack Cattrall, he said he was struggling with the weight and he's going to move up to welterweight. Do that fight.
But do you think Kell Brook, who's fought 147 his whole career, who probably didn't want to make 149 for this fight, is he going to drop a couple of pounds to just fight Josh Taylor?
He doesn't need to drop a couple of pounds. He can do it 149. It's not a title on the line. Josh Taylor would be stepping up. It wouldn't be a title, you know. And you've got. And Cal can say, well, look, I want the lion's share of the money because I'm proved. You know, it's really a one last fight for him type thing. unless he wins. But from Cal's point of view, he's the star, isn't he? But also, Josh is kind of the star because he's undisputed super lightweight champion. I know the shine's gone off it a little bit because of the Castrol fight, but he said that he was struggling with the weight. He's big 140 pounder. For him moving up, to fight Cal Brook, I think people would think, the way Cal looked against Khan, and Josh didn't set the world on fire in his last fight. Everyone felt, the overwhelming majority felt Castrol beat him. Going up 9 pounds.
An incredible feat that if he managed to do that.
And then what's Cal going to be on the night? Like that, I think that's an intriguing fight. Yeah. And from Cal's point of view, you're boxing, you're still staying at the top level, aren't you?
Yeah.
He's not a middleweight or anywhere near it, so he's not gonna. The Eubank fight's not gonna happen.
Do you not think Eubank could consider cutting really low to get him?
Even if he could cut, what could he cut? He looked.
Thick, doesn't he?
He's ripped, isn't he?
Yeah,
what I mean? At 160, he's shredded. There isn't much coming off there, let me tell you. So I don't think that fight will happen. But obviously Conor Benn
at 149.
At 149, but I don't know. Conor Benn is moving nice. He really is, but he's not a proven world level fighter. Where Josh Taylor is undisputed super lightweight champion moving up. That's a more significant fight.
It's an interesting one. I'm glad you throw that in to mix the Taylor Brook one, because out of all the suggestions we've had, I hadn't had that one yet. So that's a good fight. Look, Matt Macklin, thanks for talking to Into Boxing, sucking up for your time. I appreciate it.
Nice one. Cheers.